Hi everyone, this is Grandmaster Eugene Perelshteyn, and together with chesslecture.com, I'd like to welcome you to today's video. Now today I want to revisit one of the greatest tacticians of all time, the famous Mikhail Tal. And of course everybody may be familiar with his great attacking skills, yet this game shows to me a little bit different angle, how he finds moves that are totally not human or completely not logical, especially when faced with world-class opposition. So this game he is white against Grandmaster Ullman. For those of you who don't know Ullman, he used to be really top 20 player, perennial top 20 player for many years from Germany. Yet Tal makes this game look like he's playing a total beginner. Well, let's take a look what happened and how can we learn from the legend. So, after e4, Ullman is famous for his French, so he sticks to his beloved opening. Tal plays d4, d5, knight d2. At first, knight d2 looks like white is not really aiming to get any tactical edge. He's going strictly for positional play. The idea is if black puts the bishop on b4, there is c3, right? If pawn takes, knight takes, and the key idea, of course, if knight f6, then e5, knight d7, and here white's knight on d2 is much better placed than on c3, because after bishop goes to d3, c5, white has this very powerful c3 connecting the pawn chain, and these positions are playable. There has been lots and lots of GM games, but less and less so by black. It has been proven that after, let's say, simple moves like knight c6, knight e2, takes, black plays either f6 or bishop e7, knight f3 castles. The two bishops are so much better, especially compared to the bishop on c8. White has a long-lasting advantage. So what to do for black? Well, modern theory recommends that you should try to hit the center as quickly as possible. And that's what black played in this game, c5, using the fact that this knight is slightly blocking the bishop and the queen. And Tal plays knight gf3, simple developing move. Already white has two knights in the game, black has no minor pieces yet. And this position is still debated, believe it or not, in modern theory. Knight gf3 is actually not as common as the line e takes d5, believe it or not. Here black has an option to play with an IQP. This is famous from the 1970 matches between Karpov and Korchnoi. And the IQP is okay, but it's very, very passive in terms of its constant headache, because white's going to have a very nice long-term advantage. That's why more modern players solve this problem by taking with the queen, and this position is very common in modern theory. Takes, bishop c4, queen d6, queen d8, or even queen d7 have all been tried with really complex game. So this is where the modern theory stands, and lately, to avoid all this nonsense, white players decided, I'm not going to take on d5. I'm going to play knight gf3. Guess what? Tal has played this move back in the day. That just tells you how creative in the opening he is. Alright, so black says, I'm going to develop naturally. Knight c6 cannot be a bad move by definition. Bishop b5. Simple chess. And Tal is really good about opening principles that he picked up from Morphy and Chigorin and all those great attacking players of the past. Develop, develop, develop. He is about to castle. All his pieces are getting developed, whereas black is still struggling to get his kingside out and castle. So let's see what black plays. He says, okay, I'm going to take on e4, simplify matters. Knight takes, bishop d7. Okay, makes sense, breaking up the pin. Bishop g5. Very nice tempo move on the queen. So far, it looks like Tal is going totally forward in this game, not a single backwards move, right? Well, you guys pay attention because he is very creative, and at the right moment, things will turn. So black has to make a decision what to do with that queen. Well, first of all, let me point out to you that you don't really want to play these kind of moves because that will be the shortest game in your chess career if you're Ullmann. 8-game checkmate. So obviously that's a self-mate. Bishop e7 is no fun either because of this check. And f6 is, of course, no self-respecting grandmaster wants to weaken the king like that, take away the square from the knight, weaken this diagonal. So black's reply is more or less forced. Queen check. But here, this backwards knight move is the only move to keep the bishop in the game, right? Because this is actually a double attack. So we've had to go back and protect the bishop. So this gives black a time to regroup. He plays c takes d4. Okay, no big deal. Tal recaptures. And Ullmann plays bishop b4. Logical move. Probably the most logical move in the world. Yet, guys, I believe black is already close to lost, especially if you know what's going to happen in a few moves. So the first question for everyone is, what shall white do? Right? Obviously, bishop takes c3 is a threat. If pawn takes, queen takes, we check. Probably a lot of you will start thinking about, okay, I just need to shore up my knight with queen d3. Right? That's a typical candidate move. Going backwards, bishop d2 is absolutely a big no-no because your knight is loose. So lots of questions like that. Now, if you're thinking defensively here, that's your first mistake, right? Remember what I said, white has a large lead in development. Who cares about material? And if you immediately said, you know what, I'm just going to castle, I don't care if he takes the pawn, that's the right thought process. And of course, you don't tell Tal to sacrifice or not sacrifice. With the right opportunity, he will sacrifice pawns. Okay, so black says, you know what, at this point I have no choice. I'm going to take, and queen takes c3. And now the magician from Riga starts a combination that is already confirmed by all the modern chess engines. And I did check it with Stockfish, that believe it or not, this combination is completely sound. There is a lot of sort of knowledge and expectations that a lot of Tal's attacks were not sound, and had he played in the modern day and age, right, with the engines, all of his attacks would be refuted. But of course, put yourself in black's shoes. When you're facing one of the legendary attacking players, you don't have an engine next to you. You have to solve the problem in the amount of time that you have at the clock, and good luck figuring out the defenses. So I actually think that Tal's attack were completely sound because he played not only the chessboard, he always played the opponent. He knew that in chess, it's much easier to attack than to defend. Well, how can you continue the attack, guys? You just lost the pawn. So if you need more time, go ahead and pause the video. And of course, the answer is keep sacrificing, open up the enemy king. And Tal does exactly that. Knight f5, absolutely essential move to open up the king. This is a huge threat, right? There's really not much black can do other than to accept the sacrifice. Okay, the next move is pretty obvious, rook e1 check. So king f8 loses immediately to queen d6. And that's the game over right there. So bishop e6 is forced. And here we are going to find Tal's main idea in just a few moves. The first move is quite obvious, queen d6. I like this paralyzing move, how all of black's army is utterly paralyzed. As a matter of fact, to me it feels like white has more material than black, even though white's down a pawn and a piece. And of course, Ullmann anticipated that, and he basically says, I'm just going to kick the bishop. After bishop takes c6, queen takes c6, black offers the queen swap and easily converts the game. And this is where we are talking about superhuman chess. Can you find the next move by white? And if you need a little bit of a hint Again, reread the title of today's lecture. Tal attacks by going backwards. So that's a huge hint to you. Doesn't necessarily mean retreat, right? Going backwards not always means retreat. You can attack going backwards. And he finds an incredible idea that I believe his opponent missed for sure. I could have easily missed this move as well. So if you need more time, go ahead and pause the video. And the move is a backwards move. Bishop to d2. As funny as it looks, it's a regrouping move because after the queen takes the c2 pawn, doesn't really matter whether he has to really take because he has to keep the knight protected, right? The main idea, guys, is to reroute the bishop to b4. And that's an incredible idea I've never seen before, where you have sacrificed a pawn, a piece, and now by going backwards, you're rerouting the bishop to b4 and the game is over because there's simply no defense against ensuring attack. So the obvious threats are queen f8, rook takes e6, and black is absolutely paralyzed. So he tried to prepare for the onslaught by making the king run, but it doesn't work. So he takes on b5, check, check, and now queen takes a8. So here, I think Ullman made the right decision to resign. And of course, my question to everyone is, a strong GM resigns in this position after only 19 moves. The question is, why didn't he at least try to play on with knight takes b4? Of course, rook c1 wins the queen, but the more beautiful finish is what I really wanted to see in the game. Maybe you guys can find it. White to play, checkmate black in 2 moves. So that's the final test of your tactics, guys. If you guessed all of Tal's moves, you are definitely a great attacking player. And the finishing touch is quite simple. Again, if you need more time, go ahead and pause the video. Queen d8 check and queen d6 mate. Now, that would have been really fun had the game finished like that, except Ullman did resign a little bit early, but nevertheless, to me, this really illustrates ability to think outside the box. Everybody can sacrifice pieces when they're moving forwards, of course, but can you regroup and go backwards? Bishop d2, bishop b4 is the only winning idea in that position, and the great Mikhail Tal had to see that. Alright guys, so I hope you're going to learn this lesson, and always look for ways to continue your attack, even sometimes by going backwards. Thank you very much. This was Grandmaster Eugene Perelshteyn, together with chesslecture.com. Bye-bye.